Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Cold War Radio, live on our home base, WAAR. We are America Radio. Thank you to Jacob Seals changing it up just a little bit at the beginning of the program. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in the bunker in my Smith & Wesson studio in the city of Pittsburgh. And WAR, WAAR, We Are America Radio, your number one streaming source for political and government talk anywhere. Please follow me on Spreaker, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio. Cold War Radio has 2 A's in war. You can follow the show on Blueberry, YouTube. Cold War Radio is an iHeartRadio program. We have an app, the Cold War Radio app. It is free at your respective iTunes or Google Play Store. Just type in Cold War Radio. It will come right up. What else do we have in the inside baseball? The email is scrtv@live.com. The call-in line 412-567-1460. As usual, the chat room is up on Spreaker. Go to steelcityresistance.blogspot.com. You can catch the show notes links there. If you can hit the donate button, we'd appreciate that. There is also a new poll on the website that is a very short poll. It's only going to go for 4 days, and it is basically asking the question if you were going to watch the Super Bowl or not. If you're going to watch the Super Bowl or we should do Steel City Resistance. I don't want to do the show if nobody's going to listen. I understand people want to catch the Super Bowl. I'm not one of those people, especially now that Anheuser-Busch has decided to run an ad pretty much against the president's travel vetting program that is being mislabeled as a Muslim ban and a travel ban and everything like that. But we'll get into that. We'll certainly get into that. But the poll's up there, and I will see how many people vote. And if a certain amount of people do vote for the show to be on, then we might contemplate doing that. I don't know what Ward's going to do. Sometimes people have deep traditions when it comes to the Super Bowl, and Ward, well, this whole city is pretty much football crazy, but we'll see what happens. Vote on the poll, and we'll go from there. Wayne Dupree has ordered the camera for this studio, so you will be seeing me shortly on the Wayne Dupree program on RSBN.TV. That's a move on up. We'll see how that goes. I got an email from Peacock. Asked me, can you please talk about Democrats blocking cabinet picks? I thought the Senate had the 52 needed. How long can Schumer do this? We need our Attorney General and Secretary of State now. Well, the thing is that the problem is getting to the vote in the Senate. All of these prospective nominees go through Senate committee first. And right now you're seeing the Democrat senators, the childish, selfish, impotent Democrat senators pulling the Wisconsin maneuver. If you'll recall, back, I don't even know exactly when it was, but when the Wisconsin legislature was trying to, I think they were trying to impeach the governor, but at any rate, the Republicans had the votes, so the Democrats left town so they couldn't have the vote. Pretty soon they were embarrassed, just as the Senate Democrats will be embarrassed. Now this Supreme Court nomination, I hope, what I really hope is that enough Democrats peel off that he is confirmed before they have to use the nuclear option. I'd rather not have to do that. But if we do, I think we're going to do that. Now, you've got this media just acting ridiculous. Only 15% of Trump voters trust the media. And anybody else who is outside of that range, I mean, first of all, the 15% of Trump voters, you guys are nuts. Anybody who believes this media is crazy. I mean, when you have the same verbiage verbatim in between all the networks, there's collusion involved. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's so obvious to those of us that have watched this for any amount of time. But you can't trust it. I mean, it's just the lies that occur almost daily, especially when you're talking about mischaracterizing something like Donald Trump's extreme vetting that he said he was going to do from the beginning. And you have networks, major networks, calling it a Muslim ban, a travel ban. 1 million people from those 7 countries came into this country. Well, I don't know if it's from those 7. But there was a certain amount of people that were detained so they could check their papers, if you will. So, it's something I said yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. All of this is targeted at you. It's to make you feel like you made a mistake in the ballot box. That's all it is. It's to try to delegitimize the legitimate presidency of someone who's done more than any president in his first couple weeks ever. The new president of the Muslim majority, that's the new code word, the Muslim majority country. The new president of the Muslim majority West African nation, the Gambia, Adama Barrow, has removed Islamic Republic from the official name of his country, vowing more reforms. So that's a step up. This Islamic dominance of governments and countries is the light is getting shined on it. So that's a good thing. Now we'll see if the guy's alive by next week, but that's another story. Now, during a January 30th, yesterday, appearance on MSNBC's Morning Joe, Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut, criticized President Trump's immigration suspension and said he would rather see a move toward no screening and the passage of more gun control. And what this is telling you, ladies and gentlemen, is the Democrats don't even know what happened to them. They have no clue. They think somebody's listening to them because of this AstroTurf Soros-funded debacle that you see in the streets every day. These people they still think that they have some kind of a mandate. You're done, man. Go in the corner and sit down and whine. Put the dunce cap on and just chill out for a while because you're done. You've got 5 states in the country where you have a Democrat governor and a Democrat legislature. The Republicans have 25. You're done. And the more you keep acting like this, the more done you're going to be. Now, on a really good note, ladies and gentlemen, especially in this business, Sean Spicer announced today at his 1 o'clock press briefing that tomorrow will debut the Skype seats in the press room. And what it is it's 4 Skype seats. 3 of them are going to local reporters. One's from Cleveland, one's from Rhode Island. I didn't catch where the third one was from. And Lars Larson of the Lars Larson Show will get a seat. So that's going to be interesting to check out, because the thing is if you get a Skype seat, they're going to call on you. And there's 50 people in that room, and only a handful of them get called on. So that's going to be interesting. That's a good deal. That's a really good deal. Now, I want to move right into this. This is something that I picked up, a couple things that I picked up from the conservative treehouse, but this one really explains what's going on now and what's going to go on for at least the near future. And both of these pieces are by Sundance. And the first one's entitled, "The Trump Train Meets the Swamp." Whoa, wow, where was that? It's hilarious to see and we have a new moniker tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's hilarious to see the MSM, the mostly swamp media, and DC politicos head spinning as they try to keep up with the Trump train. They say impossible. He says, great, let's get started. It's a never-ending stream of deliberate consciousness. LOL, LOL, whoops. The mostly swamp media is really bad at playing whack-a-mole. By the time they've got their cameras and pundits briefed on their preferred outrage of the day, poof, someone drops an anvil on their head. Trump disappears, and word comes out he's reappeared with a new batch of instructions and policy deliverables for them to be outraged about. Look over there. No, wait, over there. Here, huh? What? Has it really only been a week since it was Russians? Sheesh. Trump time moves so fast, they don't have time to roll out the traditional coordinated talking points. President Trump is one person, yet he has them surrounded. The swamp peeps' nerves are frayed. They're desperate for President Trump to take a day off, but he never stops. My God, he just never stops. Today, the swamp passed around the word crisis, but it didn't faze him. He drove right through it, abandoned the airports. He just fired the AG. Head to the courthouse. EPA did what? Oh, SCOTUS, gotcha. It's the scariest thing the entire DC apparatus has ever experienced. They're aging on TV right in front of your eyes. TV time is now measured in dog years. Each media day, the pundits grow 7 months' worth of furrowed brow and wrinkles. Even at home, the media feel like they're living out of a suitcase and they haven't seen a non-coworker in 11 days. Was that table always there? Wait, stop. Soy milk? Refugees are, wait, you're blonde? Huh? When did Jess get that tattoo? Who? Boyfriend? What? I like football, do I? I thought. Phone rings. What a tax plan. Obviously, they were not paying attention for the past 18 months. This is high energy all the time. 412-567-1460 if you'd like to be on the program, but isn't that right? There's a new crisis every day. And now we've got the Supreme Court hearings that they're just going to have to, you mark my words, and I don't know if he selected one yet, I'm sure he did, but that font on that chat room is really small. But that's going to be the real battle. It's going to shift away from these cabinet members, and it doesn't matter. They could put Al Sharpton up for Supreme Court nominee, and that they would fight him. I mean, this is going to be a fight no matter what. So it's going to be interesting to check out. But now let's get a little bit more serious. This is something that it's going to get deep, and it's going to go around a lot of bends. But I want you to try to stay with this. This is a good one. And if I get cut off or something like that, make sure you read this. President Trump enters phase 2, hire American. Wall Street / establishment Republicans prepare to fight back. Keep that in mind. These guys are the enemy, ladies and gentlemen. It's only a matter of time until they make it perfectly clear. And always remember, there are trillions of dollars at stake. In addition to the content, pay close attention to the timing of policy delivery and the sequencing within the policy delivery, with the outline of the visa suspension as a lead-in toward a security policy. President Trump is also now entering economic policy phase 2. It's all connected. Within the larger economic construct of America First, the underlying supportive policy is easily seen as Buy American and Hire American for the phase 1. For the phase 1 Buy American, President Trump rolled out an aggressive push to leverage corporations and manufacturers to reinvest in United States manufacturing and U.S. production facilities. You guys all saw that. While he continues to push the benefits of domestic production, distribution, and manufacturing, phase 2 is directed at the Hire American half of this equation. However, now you got to remember his background. He knows about all these things. President Trump's express security policy on immigration and refugee status suspensions overlaps on the employment aspect within Hire American. Now President Trump fights the big club, populated halfway by Republicans. Watch closely, and you'll note how many significant corporations come out in opposition to the visa restrictions, i.e. Budweiser. Their opposition is not about security. Their opposition is in no small part because their strategic business models necessarily include the import of foreign workers. The corporations who will be most vocal against the security visa executive action will be those business interests who rely upon non-U.S. workers. The American electorate is about to discover just how many foreign workers are inside the U.S. economic system. Here is where the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, that's the funder of the Republican Party, ladies and gentlemen, Wall Street, and the establishment Republicans can be predictably anticipated to attack the White House. And you've already seen senior Republicans do that. Pay very close attention to these oppositional voices and compare them to the 2016 primary and general election voices, and you will discover they overlap identically. President Donald Trump is entering into the phase of greatest concern to those who attended the Sea Island strategic meeting to destroy Donald Trump. Remember that? In March of 2016, an exclusive list of top tech executives, billionaires, donors, and influence agents gathered at a secretive meeting with key leaders of the Washington, D.C. Uniparty. The meeting was to discuss their plans to destroy the candidacy of Donald Trump. The meeting took place at the exclusive enclave in Sea Island, Georgia. The Sea Island meeting itself was entirely anti-Trump. The gathering was almost exclusively discussions about how to rid the primary process of the outside insurgency that was Donald Trump. Unknown to most, the group assembled also contained some of the original members who constructed the 2016 primary election splitter strategy. The same people who attended the Sea Island, Georgia meeting, the same people who fund the Uniparty, the same people who create Washington, D.C.'s legislative priorities, were constructing a Clinton-Bush win-win scenario. A few of the billionaires included Apple CEO Tim Cook, Google co-founder Larry Page, Napster creator and Facebook investor Sean Parker, Tesla Motors and SpaceX founder Elon Musk, Google executive chairman Eric Schmidt, Arthur Sulzberger, publisher of the New York Times, and billionaire Philip Anschutz, who owns Sea Island. It is critical to accept who the political attendees were. This is going to hurt your feelings, some of you that have been following politics for a long time, but it's critical. Who the political attendees were, including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, political strategist Karl Rove, House Speaker Paul Ryan, Republican Senators Tom Cotton, Cory Gardner, Tim Scott, Rob Portman, and Ben Sasse. There were many more Never-Trumpers, including Energy and Commerce Committee Chairman Fred Upton, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Representative Kevin Brady, Kathy McMorris Rogers, Budget Chairman Tom Price, now for Health and Human Services, Financial Committee Chairman Jeb Hensarling, and Representative Diane Black. And if you go to the actual story, there's links to read more. These are the corporate lobbying interests who fund K Street on immigration issues with special interest on visas and foreign employment. President Trump's Q-beam is shining into the part of the Uniparty swamp they tried to hide from public view. Limousine liberals and Vichy Republicans will immediately unite. President Trump's policy of hire American is another existential threat to their collective interest. Watch closely. The visa suspension from the 7 states of concern for terrorism places the edge of the Q-beam light right near the Uniparty holy grail of unfettered employment immigration. Foreign and domestic corporations pay the Uniparty big money to keep the U.S. economic doors wide open. Many of these corporations have used offshore inversion to avoid taxation, and while they register as corporations in foreign countries, they simultaneously pay the Uniparty to keep the physical location of their home office in the United States. Under the inversion scheme, these corporations are also able to pay employees as contractors and independent consultants, providing the executive employees with a favorable income tax position related to their country of nationality. It's a scheme. Tom Donahue, president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, has made hundreds of millions of dollars from his organizational efforts toward the benefits of those corporate interests. Anticipate seeing media reports discussing companies who are trying to settle the nerves of their registered visa employees, etc. Within these reports, we will be able to gauge the scope of the foreign workforce operating inside the United States. Remember, Rupert Murdoch, Fox News, is one of the primary oppositional voices to this specific policy. Immigration is where we will all easily identify the hidden uniparty apparatus as it pertains to corporate interests. Immigration is where the establishment GOP will no longer be able to hide. The Republican half of the uniparty have been paid tens of millions to facilitate open-door migration and ridiculously lax visa programs therein. When President Trump's security policy nudges into the geography of the employment immigration policy, we can predictably expect to see all those Sea Island, Georgia voices rise up in opposition. Because remember, and always remember this, it's not about security. It's about the money. It's always about the money. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's your ammunition, and there's your reasoning why one of the most important missions that we have is we have got to identify, isolate, and get these people removed from the Republican Party. Because if we don't, one of a couple of different things are going to happen. This whole thing is going to get stalled, in which case the millions of people that never voted before or that excitingly voted for, enthusiastically voted for Donald Trump, are either going to leave this party and we're going to start a new party, or we're just going to quit, or I don't know what. But you can clearly see that the lines are being drawn. You've already heard of McCain and Graham are just the tip of the iceberg. They're the front men. But people that you've respected for years, you're going to find have no interest in what Donald Trump wants to do, and they really have no choice. You know, they're like they're so into these people for money that they're really they're paralyzed. Unless you can find somebody that's really heroic and really has a lot of principle, which if they did that, they would never be in the position that they're in. But keep in mind that every one of these leadership positions on every single committee, there's an actual price for it. They actually have to give so much money to their party in order to get one of these leadership positions. And some of them, that's all their life. They're not coming to Congress to do a tour and then go back home. This is all they've got. Paul Ryan never did anything in his life other than this. He fully plans on being the Speaker of the House for 20 years. I mean, there's no question. That's one of the most intoxicating offices in the country. I mean, the physical office. Everything leads to his office when you look out the window, all the avenues. We got ourselves in a situation right here, and I'm glad for people like Sundance, who is absolutely the most brilliant detective that I've ever seen when it comes to Washington. I mean, I have learned so much from this guy in the last year. He's really opened my eyes, and that's what I said at the beginning about, I might hurt somebody's feelings, because some of these people I held in esteem for a very long time. And to realize, you always knew in the back of your mind that something was wrong because nothing ever happened. But to realize that it's this deep, that we finally got a shot, and that's what I hope for, with at least some of them. I hope some of them finally realize that we finally have a shot at this, because I don't believe they came into it dirty, most of them. I think they got ensnared. Now, some of them were just plain dirty anyway. I mean, McCain, he came in under false pretenses. I'll cover him in a different episode, but I don't know. I just wanted everybody to be aware of what we face in front of us and be prepared to deal with it. You're listening to Cold War Radio with Hutch Bailey Jr. Deep down in the bunker. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. This is Cold War Radio on We Are America Radio, WAAR.
I know you're going to be mighty busy during the next 5 days, friends, and I also know that you don't want to wake up Christmas morning with a cold. But have you noticed Old Man Cold is really making the rounds? Let's hope he doesn't catch up with you. However, if you should feel a cold coming on, remember Alka-Seltzer. Yes, remember and try Alka-Seltzer for fast relief from much of your cold distress. Here's the ABC Cold Comfort Treatment. A, Alka-Seltzer. B, be wise. Beware of drafts, be careful of your diet, and be sure you dress sensibly and try to get more rest than usual. And C stands for comfort. The comfort an Alka-Seltzer gargle can give a sore throat caused by a cold. Well, there it is, friends. Alka-Seltzer's ABC Cold Comfort Treatment, as easy as ABC to follow and really effective. Just try it and see for yourself. Remember, when you begin to sniffle and sneeze, start Alka-Seltzer's ABCs. Get Alka-Seltzer at any drugstore and say, better buy that extra package, too. That's the wisest thing to do.
And we will much about that be committed. So there's no real conflict. Michael Druniak, including Lincoln himself, Daniel Day-Lewis. Behind Monica Lewinsky, the one and only Trey Songz is here. But Allison Lundergan Grimes, Gina De Jesus. When Gina De Jesus, Tea Party challenger Matt Bivens. People don't want to have their Social Security overall. The Republican savior, Mark Rubio's big night. In evolution and Galileo, I mean this whole thing of Galileo, America's changed. Unless IT and Skillets, President Putin doing something similar back in, it won't change this fundamental fact about the GOP. Just how absurd these attacks is. Nearly 6 months after the dangerous traffic jam, the Thai military says, my friend for many years, Ilyana Van Zandt. There's nothing there.
In every Chevrolet showroom across America, More and more people are looking at the car that's just out and just wonderful. The 1957 Chevrolet. Some are looking at Chevrolet's daring new front-end styling, the bold new grille, big, beautiful sloping hood. Some are looking at Chevy's handsome new rear end with high-fashion fenders and fresh new design. Everyone's enthused about the new color-fashioned interiors and the sleek command post instrument panel. And the biggest news of all, Chevrolet's fuel injection, the greatest engine advance.
He was once late for Fajr, just to see how it feels. He performed Hajj 7 times by the age of 2. He can speak Arabic in 5 different languages. Arabia imports horses from him. He can use the bathroom without losing his wudu. He once gave a khutbah without saying a single word. When airport security stops him, he puts the pilot on the no-fly list. He is the most interesting Muslim in the world.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I say astaghfirullah. Stay righteous, my friends.
For America's wounded warriors, coming home can sometimes be a battle in itself. Making the transition back to civilian life or active duty with a traumatic injury can be the challenge of a lifetime. The USO provides every American a way to support our wounded warriors and their families through every phase of their medical treatment and rehabilitation. It's how all of us, as a community, can give something back to our heroes. It's how we can say thank you and assure them that their sacrifice is recognized and appreciated by every one of us. Join us. Visit USO.org to learn how you can make a difference in the lives of our wounded warriors and their families. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Don't make me do that. Damn, sucker. Get
And welcome back to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder, if you're just now joining the program, go to steelcityresistance.blogspot.com. In the upper right column, there is a poll as to whether or not you are going to watch the Super Bowl, and should I do Steel City Resistance on Super Bowl Sunday. So that's just something that, depending on the response to the poll, that will determine whether I do the show or not. Let's welcome Big Rich from New York, Richard Torres. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Hutch. Hearing that article you was reading, it's very trickery there, because Trump is tapping into the honey well from these Republicans, and they are the globalists. They control these Republicans.
Oh, right. And that's why I say that trillions of dollars are at stake. That's how critical this is. He's going to affect people's lifestyles.
Exactly. And Trump needs to be very careful, because these Republicans could easily do a coup on him under his nose before he even realized what was going on.
Well, I'll tell you, he's got some people around him that a lot of people don't know. Stephen K. Bannon. Now, I followed him before. I was shocked when he went to Trump's campaign. I mean, this guy is a warrior. He is a stone-cold warrior. He was, I forget which battleship he was on when he was an officer in the Navy, but he went from that tour to being the special assistant to the chief of naval operations in the Pentagon. I mean, this guy, he's got his act together, and he was in Goldman Sachs, and then he was one of the initial investors in Seinfeld. He's been all over the place, this guy. I have faith in his advisors, and as time goes on, Rich, I'm noticing this guy is playing everybody. They think they're playing him, but I would put Donald Trump up against 12 of the Senate Republicans that are going to try to undermine him. I think he has communication directly with the electorate, directly with the American people, something no other president has had.
Right. Do you think the Republicans are cracking deals with the head of the Democrat Party?
I do.
That's very dangerous.
I have no faith at all, and maybe my faith can be restored. But when I hear the things these people say, you always have to remember back to the primary. The things they tried to do, like that meeting in Georgia I was talking about.
Yes.
I mean, I remember when that happened, I couldn't believe it.
And the proof is in the pudding. Have you noticed how quiet these Republicans have been with all this going on?
You know, a couple of them made some perfunctory statements, like Paul Ryan said that know he was right in his, but not as they should be screaming.
Right, exactly. Because right now we're in the situation the Republicans cannot afford to give an inch of ammunition to these Democrats. They give them an inch, and they're going to run on that little inch the Republican will give regarding Trump.
I agree. You know, what they need to do is they need to start acting like they won.
Exactly.
They need to start.
These Republicans, everything was handed to them in the silver plate.
And it's not the first time. The first time it happened was when George H.W. Bush was elected. He was handled Reagan's legacy, and he gave it all back.
I don't know what these people are thinking. It's just you drive me bananas, man. These Republicans, man, and how you call this guy the army guy? I forgot. I'm so pissed off. I always forget his name. McCain. This guy should be just outcasted from the Republican Party.
It's unbelievable, you know.
But he's
really
he's like a cancer, man.
I agree.
Every time Trump takes 2 steps up, he brings him back 3 steps back, man. With his stupid comments. You know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But you know what? We're on to him now, finally. It's taken a long time, but a lot of people are on to him now. And we have to stick together.
How great was this pick tonight with the Supreme Court judge?
I was doing the show, man. I don't know.
Have to see it. You have to see it, man.
All
great
right,
feedback. This guy he looks good. Conservative to the bone. He's got to be an uphill battle with him, trying to get him in there. So we see what happens.
All right. Hey, thanks for calling.
All right. God bless.
All right. So there you have it. Get worried, but don't get too worried. It's not that big of a deal. Now, we got a report out of Syria that's claiming that Bashar al-Assad has suffered a stroke. That being said, Damascus is denying the report. This is from Breitbart, from Francis Martel, foreign affairs correspondent. Officials in Damascus have denied a flurry of regional news reports suggesting, and they say dictator, he's the president, but I guess he was elected with 99.9%, so I guess you could call him a dictator. Bashar Assad is in serious condition, with some reports claiming he suffered a stroke, while others are suggesting an assassination attempt occurred. Assad, the office of the presidency, claimed, look at that, in one paragraph they call him a dictator, in the next paragraph they call him the office of the presidency, was carrying on his duties quite normally. The full statement posted on Facebook in Arabic stated that all reports claiming Assad was somehow incapacitated were false. The presidency denies all these reports. President Assad is in excellent health, the statement read, according to Reuters, suggesting that changing circumstances in the field and politically were behind the claims that Assad was ill. The Syrian people had become immune to such lies, the statement concluded. The state media outlet Sana did not report on the rumors, instead publishing an article on Monday stating that Assad had spoken to Venezuelan dictator and longtime ally Nicolas Maduro. Maduro reportedly congratulated President al-Assad and Syrian people on the important achievements in the war against terrorist organizations which are backed by countries hostile to Syria. Maduro was famously among the last world leaders to see Cuban dictator and late Assad ally Fidel Castro alive. attending the 90th birthday celebrations in Havana last year. Castro had stepped down from the dictator role in 2008 after widespread rumors of his death or severe incapacitation, and was rarely seen in public for the next 8 years. So we'll have to stay on top of that and see what happens going forward with that. 412-567-1460 if you'd like to call the show. Now, there's a good article in the American Thinker that I would point you to, entitled "Saul Alinsky in the White House Still?" And it's by Cameron Reddy. It's pretty on point. I mean, he goes on to describe some of the things going on, considering Donald Trump's expert rope-a-dope bouts with the media, and he goes through there and explains pretty much what the Alinsky rules for radicals are, and he adds a Rule 14: confound the enemy with allegations he could not possibly disprove. Whenever possible, turn the enemy in on himself. Look for ways to increase insecurity, anxiety, and confusion, and watch how organizations flail helplessly when blindsided by irrelevant arguments they cannot refute. And a new Rule 15, push the enemy so hard with outrageous situations and allegations that he is forced to push back. Whenever possible, cause the enemy to respond, and when he does, hold him up for ridicule, then push harder. By threatening his security and way of life, you will always elicit a reaction that can be turned against him. And then he goes on to really get into the way that Donald Trump is really doing this. I mean, take the most recent frothing from leftists regarding presidential counselor Kellyanne Conway's alternative facts defense of White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer's claim that this was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration. And what you'll see in this article is that he has played them. I watched the Sean Spicer press conference today, and the questions were infantile. They were about things that meant nothing. And he's done that for days. He's made them talk about things that don't mean a damn thing. Hickory, good evening. What's going on?
Well, you have to take a look at the children. Now they're the inmates are no longer running the asylum.
And they're just starting to figure it out, too. They haven't really even noticed it, or they've noticed it, but they haven't really come to grips with it yet. I'm loving watching it.
And Saul Alinsky, when you summed up, everything by, calling it cultural Marxism, Alinsky can be summed up with baffle him with bullshit.
No, you're right. But some of the other ways, with the way he has you isolate your target, isolate and ridicule, you can watch these things, and that's all they're trying to do.
A long time ago. I mean, and he just writes it in a modern format.
If you look at the most prominent national Republicans, if you look at the most prominent Republican leaders in the last 40 years, well, starting with Reagan, they did it to every one of them.
Well,
they ridiculed every one of them.
I just did a blog, and Eisenhower's in it, and everything like that. Have you noticed how we're being pushed towards cybersecurity right now, Hutch, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, back in the day, it was pushed to psychological operations against our enemies.
Sure, we still have units in the military that are psyops.
Well, of course, but I'm telling you, what the big push was, and at the end of it, Eisenhower, in a Woodrow Wilson moment, warned us about the military-industrial complex.
Yes, he did, and I mean...
Yes, he did. Now, here's one thing I want to point out about two of Trump's generals that he picked. They first enlisted in the Marine Corps. They're not from the Academy. Bannon is not from the Academy. Mattis enlisted and then went to school and became ROTC. And he was commissioned a second lieutenant. John Kelly served 2 years, became a sergeant, got out, went to college, and came back, commissioned a lieutenant. These are the kind of people that Trump is comfortable with. Richard Nixon was very much afraid of the East Coast, more like New England establishment. And so therefore, when he looked at Richard Helms, who did not have an Ivy League degree, but who was educated in a boarding school in Switzerland, was more to his liking in intelligence. So...
Well, that makes sense. I mean, and Hickory, I'm running out of time. I got to let you go. Thanks for calling.
It's been great, Hutch. I hope your run goes a long way, bud.
I do too. Thank you, sir. Good evening. And he's right too. The people. Donald Trump is like that. Donald Trump, and I don't know that much about New York City, but I know a little bit about it. And Donald Trump is headquartered in Manhattan, but Donald Trump is from Queens. Donald Trump is not one of the elites. The pearl clutchers from Manhattan, and he never will be, and he probably doesn't want to be. But he's the kind of guy that made it from the bottom. Another guy is General Carter Ham, same one, highest-ranking general in the United States military that came from ROTC. He was a 4-star. Andy, good evening. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing there, Hutch?
Doing good.
Just a couple things. I wanted to change the subject a little bit, if that's okay. I wanted
That's quite all right.
Talk about this judge, this justice that's been nominated. I think it's an excellent pick.
What's the guy's name? Is it Gorsuch?
Gorsuch, yeah. And he comes right out of the mold of by the way, I'm a government economics teacher, so I kind of follow this a bit, and don't know a lot about him other than he comes right out of the mold of Scalia. He's
almost.
Almost. He's close. He's close.
He's got
the
a
Second
problem.
Amendment. Yeah, his Second Amendment. He's generally for. That's I think his weak. If you want to call it a weak link, it's not really. He's generally supportive of gun rights when the matters come, but he doesn't make a huge issue out of it.
Well, what he did was he signed on to an opinion, and I can't remember the name of the case, but. If you go on the American Thinker, it's written out there, where an individual was concealed carrying a weapon, and the officer saw that, and without finding out whether the guy had a permit or not, which in New Mexico he was allowed to have a permit, he would have been allowed to carry the weapon. He tackled the guy and disarmed him, and it turned out the guy was a felon. But the opinion the precedent allowed in New Mexico that any police officer can treat a legal concealed carrier as a criminal by default. And I'm not sure if it's that big of a deal. I want to hear how he deals with it in the hearings, because the rest of his pedigree is excellent.
Yeah, that's right. And I have a feeling that he is probably going to fall on the side of where Donald Trump is been preaching all this time. The guy is incredibly intelligent. I mean, he as far as pedigree goes, Columbia, Harvard, Oxford,
right.
PhD in Oxford.
Right.
He is one of the, I guess, few that's had a PhD, as a justice. And so I just think, all in all, overall, it just on the surface right now looks like a really good choice. And
I hope so. I mean, I hope he's going to have the fight of his life. There's no question.
Oh, yeah, he will.
Now, the good side of that is that I think we need 9, however many senators we need from the Democrat side, if we do not invoke the nuclear option, which I don't want us to. I hope we don't have to. But there are so many of them that are up for re-election in 2 years in totally red states that went for Trump.
Right.
That I hope they realize that if they decide to be real problems with this, because you know as well as I do that normally the president gets his choice. Not all the time. Not when President Obama was his last year.
Right. But things are different now.
Oh, they are. You're right. But
things are different now. There's no normal anymore. There's no gentlemanly agreement anymore. the
No,
Senate
you're
or the
right,
House.
but I would just mention that if you look at the last or the last two Supreme Court appointments of the most leftist people you could possibly think of, with Kagan and Sotomayor, and then you go back farther than that, and you look at Justice Ginsburg, who was the solicitor of the ACLU.
Oh, I know.
The people that we've put in there, this should be a no-brainer. But it won't be, like you said.
But it won't be. It's a double standard. You know it, and I know it. When it comes to that kind of thing, I have a feeling we will have to go to the nuclear option. And to be honest, I really don't care if we do. I just as soon see us do it. The president of the Senate has the right to do that.
That's true.
They can change the rule, and a la Harry Reid.
Well, actually, the majority leader, the majority leader, the president of the Senate,
the majority. That's what I meant to say.
The vice president.
Sorry about that. Yeah, but if they deem it quote unquote unconstitutional, which they can do, then they can change the rule, and so we can just put Harry Reid's words right back in his face.
And that part will be kind of fun. Andy, I'm out of time, man. Thanks for calling. Please call back again.
Will do. Bye bye now.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just so I can keep up with my show notes, so I can post them all, I'm going to go real quick. Apparently, there are members of the Homeland Security staff that are literally in tears, literally crying, real tears, coming down and short-circuiting their keyboards over this travel extreme vetting. So obviously, and this was one of my biggest problems with George W. Bush, we should have never created the Department of Homeland Security, ever, or the Transportation Security Administration. I'd like to see them defund that right now and put the onus back on the FBI and back where it belongs. Take the Secret Service, put it back under the Treasury, because obviously we have the wrong people in the Department of Homeland Security. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, what you got to understand, when you have any agency that has stood up in Washington, it gets staffed with people out of Georgetown, people out of the liberal sphere that live in the area. So any new agency, and all the agencies that we have there now, including the CIA, the State Department, all these bureaucrats that are in there are all leftists by default coming out of college. I want to thank everybody who listened live tonight and is in the chat room. I have to rearrange my studio, ladies and gentlemen. I got to get this a little more Hutch Bailey Jr. friendly, which I will do. But I want to thank everybody that's listening online, everybody that's listening at a future time in the podcast. Get over to the website, hit that poll. There's only 4 days. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Facebook, Bird's Eye View on Twitter. I'm also Hutch Bailey Jr. on Gab. I'll get over there one of these days. There's not enough time in the day, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. There's certainly not enough time in the program. We'll see what we'll do about that in the future. Starting tomorrow, you'll be able to catch the Wayne Dupree program on the CRN network. That's a big deal. When I learn more about it, I'll let you know. Wayne Dupree's up next. Don't miss that. Thanks for letting me into your life for 1 hour. God bless. Take us out, Jacob. Never lose faith.